proud Easterseals board member. We thank you guys so much for joining us today. Easterseals is so honored to help celebrate the launch of As We See It. This is a groundbreaking show depicting three 20-something roommates on the autism spectrum. Besides producing the show with an authentic cast and themes, Easterseals was proud to consult on this show every step of the way. And I mean, this show really is an unbelievable example of how disability representation should be done. Now, I've been very lucky in my career in that I've been in over 40 TV shows and movies. And as a little person, that is a real blessing. But the majority of my work has been self-driven, producing, creating my own content. And 9.5 years ago, I looked around, I was like, why aren't more people with disabilities creating their own content? So I created the Disability Film Challenge, an annual film competition where people with disabilities create their own films and take their career in their own hands. And it's grown year after year. And in 2017, I partnered with Easterseals, Southern California, and the film challenge has exploded. We've had hundreds of films that have been created. We have had unbelievable success stories. This is people with disabilities taking their career in their own hands, telling their own stories, and it's leading to jobs for people with disabilities in front of and behind the camera. And speaking about success stories, real quick, I want to tell you there's a girl named Tal Anderson. She's an unbelievable actress and a director and a writer and an editor. And she also is on the autism spectrum. She makes awesome films every year for the film challenge. And she also happens to be a recurring character on As We See It. So I'm super excited about that. We just launched the 9th annual Easterseals Disability Film Challenge. If you want to learn more, go to disabilityfilmchallenge.com. We're about to start this unbelievable panel. But before we do, I have some exciting news. We have our newest sponsor for the 2022 Easterseals Disability Film Challenge. And that sponsor is Amazon Prime Video. So I want to thank you, Amazon, for truly giving a voice to the next generation of storytellers. Now, I'm so excited. Who's ready for this panel? I'm looking around. There's no one here. I have a baby and a French bulldog. But I feel the energy deep down, and you are going to love this moderator. He is one of the funniest comedians. He's got a great podcast. He's been on a million TV shows. I love him. You're going to love him. Please take it away, the one, the only, Ron Funches.
Good afternoon, Sundance Film Festival. I am actor, comedian, and most importantly, father of a child on the autism spectrum, Ron Funches. I am also a Black man with a goatee, a beautiful salmon-colored jacket. Just imagine a chocolate-covered gummy bear that's come to life. And I am thrilled and honored to be with you today discussing the amazing, authentic representation in Prime Video's new series, As We See It. This panel is part of an event series from Prime Video called Voices, which dives into the history and data of inequities in Hollywood and ways we can change the narrative across our productions. So let's meet our panelists.
Hi, I'm Jason Katims. I'm a white male with clear glasses and black hair and a brown sweater.
Welcome, Jason. Hello, my name is Rick Glassman. I am a white male, 6'3", wearing a sweater and a turtleneck because it's Sundance Film Festival. And just really athletic build, very, very strong underneath.
No.
Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Ann Pien. I play Violet on As We See It. And I am an Asian American woman. I have long, straightened, professionally done hair and makeup, and I'm wearing a very futuristic patterned black and red block dress. But you can only see me from the waist up or so.
Hello, I'm Alberto Tecky. I'm a white male, short brown hair, green eyes, and long sleeve purple shirts that I think I got from Kohl's. I'm wearing that.
Okay, I'm Sosie Bacon. I play Mandy on the show. I'm a white female with long hair today because I have extensions in Rick. I'm telling the world. Normally, my hair is much thinner and shorter.
Me too. Yeah.
G'day, guys. I am Chris Pang. I am Asian Australian. I haven't shaved for about a week to try and get that Sundance gruff, but because I'm Asian, there's actually still nothing there. And I am wearing a camel sweater that I actually bought for Sundance 2 years ago when we could attend in person. I was trying to get in the mood. It was cold there.
Well, thank you and welcome to all our amazing panelists. Before we even get started, I just want to say how much I love this show. I just started watching it. I was apprehensive in watching it, being a father of a son who has autism. And within the first couple of minutes, I was crying. I was laughing. I was truly amazed about the authentic representation. And just as soon as I saw The Price is Right show up and I saw the difficulty in dealing with dogs, I was like, okay, they know what they're talking about. But let's get a little bit more into the show and watch our first clip.
Who wants to start?
Harrison smells. It's
Jack?
probably because he's so fat.
Jack, please take out your headphones, and that's rude.
How am I supposed to
Hey,
get
Violet,
a
we
boyfriend
need
if
to
I can
have
get
one
married if I'm in the kitchen
conversation.
squirting mustard on sandwiches? Violet?
Word.
Violet, watch your language. Jack, is that how friends talk to each other?
No, but he's not my friend.
My best friend since preschool.
You're not even qualified to live here with us.
Of course he is. Your family's rented this apartment for all three of you, and you know that.
So we could become independent. Harrison will never be independent or have a
Harrison,
job.
don't listen to that.
His
Jack.
parents are filthy rich and they pay for most of the rent. Otherwise, you wouldn't even make the cut.
Jack. Harrison, I think that Jack might be a little agitated right now. And so he's saying things he doesn't actually mean, and I just want to find out how you're feeling about that.
I don't like him very much right now.
Yeah, I understand. Jack, do you hear that?
How am I ever going to hook up with a man?
Maybe you can go on a date with someone at drama club.
Drama club? Yeah. I want someone normal.
What about Douglas?
Douglas?
Yeah.
Ew, guess again, I'm not going to Douglas. But you
Violet,
definitely
language.
can if that's your thing.
Violet.
Look, I'm gonna be here a lot more often now, so I need this place to smell less like
How do you mean
Harrison.
you're gonna be
Tinder
here
right
more
now
often?
to find a love connection.
Wait, Violet, Tinder is off limits.
Fine, Bumble.
No, we do not use our phones during group.
Oh, just a good start. Now,
So long ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
well, it still holds up. Well, Jason, I know why I like this show. I am enjoying the differences as you show in the autism spectrum. I love how you show the caregivers and how their lives are affected. But for you, why this show, and why did you decide on what aspects and themes within the autism community that you wanted to explore through these brilliant characters?
First of all, thank you, Ron. That means a lot. I appreciate that, man. I have a son on the spectrum also. A few years ago, he was, getting to be, not a teenager anymore. And I was starting to think ahead. I was starting to look ahead and wonder what his life was, going to be like in adulthood. And it got me thinking that I don't see that much representation of autism in adults. There's more, you hear a lot and see a lot and read a lot about, children, but those children's grow up, it turns out. And so, what's made me want to explore this out of this story from a very personal place. And then when it came to doing it and diving in, I thought if I'm going to tell this story, I have felt a huge responsibility to try to tell the story, to try to get it right, or as right as possible, as right as I could. And that became the first thing that I did when the show got picked up. Was I was like, let's see if we can cast the show authentically. Let's cast it with actors, the neurodiverse characters on the show with neurodiverse actors, and have that be the first step in trying to sort of tell this story as authentically as possible and put it out there, what it's really like, try to dispel some of the preconceptions or myths we might have about people on the spectrum, and particularly adults on the spectrum, and show them in a very true, real way. Show them for all their beauty, their intelligence, but also their idiosyncrasies and the challenges that they have. Mm-hmm. And that was what was kind of behind it. I just wanted to tell the story as honestly as I could, and bring together, partners in telling the story, like all the people that we're here with now, these cast members, to help me tell the story and help me try to get it right.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you for that. As a person who, my son is 18 years old, and as long as I've been working in entertainment, I've been trying to see more representation. I'm working on my own. And I know you didn't say it, but I will. It is nice to see representation where someone is either not a magical doctor or a tragic burden, but somewhere in the middle. And I truly appreciate that. Let's watch our second clip.
Will you take me shopping? I need to get more lacy bras.
No, you don't.
Celeste says I have good boobs, but they're small, so I need lacy bras. Do you think I have good boobs?
Look, brothers and sisters don't really talk about this kind of stuff, okay?
Why?
We just don't talk about this kind of stuff. And also, don't ever listen to Celeste about what to wear.
Why?
You don't want guys thinking that you're cheap and they'll expect stuff and for you to have to do stuff.
I want to do stuff.
All right, but not with creeps.
I'm 25. I want a boyfriend. It's normal to have a boyfriend. I want to be normal.
All right, how about this? If you do well this week, just get through the week, I will take you shopping on the weekend, okay? How's that?
This weekend is too late. I might have a date before that. I'm on Bumble now.
What? No Bumble, no dating apps.
Mandy said I could.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
All right, I'll talk to Mandy. Can you just please delete it?
No, Mandy's the boss.
I'm the boss.
You're a terrible boss. I don't want you as my boss anymore.
Okay, trust me, I don't want to be the boss either, but you gotta delete that app, please.
No.
If you don't delete the app, I'm gonna have to take your phone.
You can't take my phone.
Yes, I can.
You can't.
You know the deal.
You can't take my phone.
Bye.
You're the worst brother in the world.
Violet. Violet! Your cards.
I hate your stupid cards.
Thank you. Bye.
Great scene. I love that scene. Now, throughout the series, Violet is trying to get it in. She is wanting some. Now, it seems less about lust and more about wanting to be normal through getting a boyfriend. Now, we all know normal is a very nuanced word. Sue-Ann, from an authenticity, I didn't even say that word right. From your perspective, why is Violet's quest to pursue love so important to the show?
Oh my God. One, it's very realistic. I have friends who are on the spectrum who are independent and also who aren't independent. They have support. And so it's like, it's just like everything else in life. It's like, that like it could be very lonely. And why wouldn't I want a boyfriend or a mate or a partner, right? Everyone has mates and partners. And I remember for my own experiences growing up and coming of age, as soon as all my friends were, losing their virginities or getting boyfriends, I wanted to do that too, because I needed to fit in. And so that storyline is just so realistic to what, I could tell you a bunch of people I just hung out with who were on the spectrum. It's like, I want a boyfriend, I want a girlfriend, I want this and that. It's important. It's important in life for everybody, no matter who you are.
I agree with you completely. I think that's something that's often overlooked is the sexual lives of people on the spectrum. Considered to be like asexual, but that is far from the case from the things that I have seen on my son's internet history.
He knows about that.
Chris, for you, conversely, for her brother, why do you think it's so difficult for him?
Oh man, hopefully you could see by the clip why it's so difficult. I was frustrated just watching that clip. For me, coming in to play that role of Van was it's so special to me because firstly, I don't have a sister and I've always wanted one. I've got a brother and I didn't know what it was like to have a sister and didn't know how, the chemistry would work with, didn't know who was cast. And I just learned the other day in another panel that we did that Sue-Ann was the first person cast. And I get it. Why? She's freaking phenomenal. She's so fantastic in this role. And you can't help but feel for her. And so when I'm playing this character, I just, she's my sister for real. And everything that happens on screen, I kind of, we got to a point where I was feeling it. And so it was playing the role of Van. It was easy for me to get into the character and understand why, like you said, it's important to show the other side, because she's trying to fight for her autonomy and trying to get independence, and try and be normal, what she would consider normal, to fit in and all that. And on the other hand, Van, as her carer, is trying to rein her in, because here's a guy who is responsible for her well-being. And he might not be the perfect person. He might not be the best person to care for her, but he's the one that's been given the task. And I think it's important to remember that, is that, a lot of times we're thrust into these situations. Maybe we haven't asked for it. And this show does such a good job of just showing like the hardships, the difficulties, but at the same time, the beauty of having that responsibility. And so it's important for us to see the other side. This show does really explore what life is like on the spectrum. But I think it does something that sort of stands out from other material, that it really shows the other side too so well. And we really paint a picture of what it's like to be a caretaker, and give some credit to the people that are going through that as well.
Also, just to add one more thing to what you're saying, Chris, is that, there's like a certain innocence to Violet. But in that innocence, there's also a vulnerability, is that she's vulnerable in the world a little bit, in ways that she doesn't completely understand. And so when I see that scene, it's like that scene feel really resonates for me as a parent.
Absolutely.
Because, you see that struggle between wanting to, wanting to support your sister, wanting to be there for her, but also feeling like she might not, at this point in her life, get some of the stuff that she's doing. And so it's that, it's a story, as you said, about autonomy, her struggling for autonomy, and you trying to help her get there. But, along the way, she pushes back against you, which is not fun.
No, it's like you said, Jason, it's something that I watch truly related to. Is one of the scenes where I started crying, because I understood that wanting to watch your case, your sister, your family member grow up, have their own life, but also that fear. And like you said, I think in this world, you have a character where she is honest. She is honest in what she wants. She wants to hook up, and she wants a boyfriend. And she's in a world where people can take advantage of honesty. People can take advantage of that being a little bit naive. And that's something that her brother is way more aware of than she is. And so having to deal with that balance was a beautiful scene for me to watch, and made me cry. So let's get to our next clip.
All hands on deck. It is just too complicated and confusing.
What's going on? Treasure hunt.
Gets to the P&Ls.
That's a good thing.
I know you wrote the program, but
He does that. It's okay.
Slurping everything. Work together. That's going to save.
so the plan is to go back to the old interface and incorporate as much of this new programming as possible underneath.
That's a completely asinine statement. I'm sorry?
Jack.
It demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of programming.
Maybe my terminology isn't up to your standards.
Okay, I understand. You have inferior intelligence.
He doesn't mean that.
Yes, I do. You know he's an idiot. You say it every day.
I never said anything remotely.
I think you need to step out of the meeting now.
Hey, you stay back. Jack. There, the P&L page. Treasure hunt over. You have access to every book sold, at what price, complete inventory, profits and losses from any given day from the start of publication. So like I said, it's a perfect program.
I think you need to leave.
Where?
Why don't you talk to Jennifer in HR?
HRY, am I being fired?
You can discuss that with Jennifer.
Will I be paid until the end of the pay period?
It's not my department, Jack.
Because I'm saving up for a Roomba, and if I could get paid till the end of the pay period, I could get the Roomba S9 Plus. Otherwise, I have to settle for the Roomba 860, which is vastly inferior.
You need to leave now. Seriously?
is taking one of each because I'm not sure which one I'm going to want later.
Funny scene. Now, Rick Glassman,
Thanks,
I
Ron.
know you texted me last night wanting to do a whole bit about how we don't know each other and that you were going to go on a whole thing. But instead, I'm just going to praise you and talk about how such a good actor you are in this show, how this seems to be the perfect role for you in a place where you really found yourself. And I was truly proud watching you perform on this show. And also just knowing you and knowing that your journey on the autism spectrum started more recently, being diagnosed as an adult. So I just wanted to ask you, separate from what's on this rundown, how did this show and your journey on this show and your diagnosis, how did they kind of help each other? How did they help you understand yourself a little bit more through the show?
Well, I was diagnosed with autism about 5 years ago, and you were part of that inciting incident as I was learning more about autism. I have one autistic friend. I was around it a little bit as a kid, and knowing you and Malcolm. But then when I had this diagnosis, it was a combination of discovering myself and what autism means. And I kind of gave myself this false burden of needing to understand what autism means to kind of be able to better identify with myself. And I had highs and lows with that journey. And then when I booked this show, I was very nervous of needing to represent something that I was still learning about. And while being on the show with Sue Ann and Albert, but also a lot of guest stars and reoccurring people that were on, everybody is different. And there's a quote that I've said, Jason said, I think it's Dr. Stephen Shore. I'm not sure if I'm citing it right, but if you've met one person with autism, it means you've met one person with autism. And by seeing how different all of these people are and the characters that they're playing are not even them, it was a really nice safety net for me to not need to define something of myself that was bigger than autism. But yeah, I had some obstacles that I was grateful to be able to categorize with autism, to be able to give me this kind of roadmap that I didn't have as a kid. And go ahead.
No, I just think that's well put. I feel like my scariest time in the autism journey with my son was just when we did not have a diagnosis, when we did not know what we were dealing with, when we didn't have a name for it. It was a lot scarier. Once the diagnosis, which I think a lot of people think is the scariest part, but it actually at least gave us a roadmap. It gave us a place to go.
Yeah, I find because it gives you questions to ask. Like answers are easy and questions are hard. And once you kind of understand what is it that I need to know, it opens up the allowance for awareness. And you and I did a show together before this, and this was before my diagnosis. And, you know, we don't need to get into it, but there were some apparently some issues with me on set that I was totally unaware of until the show was done. And now I'm going into this new show with this awareness, but lack of experience. And I was so nervous. And thankfully, my next show was with people who were designed to try and understand and ask questions and not fill in the blanks and speak a bit directly and understand people who speak a bit directly. And it was just such a blessing to be able to kind of grow into this thing that is new for me with people that are literally all over the spectrum on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that leads perfectly into this next question. Like Jack, in that scene, Jack is clearly having a tough time in the meeting, and so are his coworkers. So how can employers make the work environment more inclusive? You know, this is something I'm very interested in as my son gets more into a working age. And now in contrast, let's talk about your experience working on As We See It set and how it's different from other sets. This question is for anyone who wants to answer. Okay, I'll move along.
No, Ron. I'd like to say the first part of that about making an environment that's more inclusive. And it's touching on a bit of what I said before, but there have been issues in my life, both in the workplace and interpersonally, where there was such a disconnect that the tools that I had at that time, I didn't even know existed, right? And that disconnect caused such a rift between the relationships. And there's only one little thing missing was just that awareness of it. I just didn't know. Some people, you don't have to be on the autism spectrum to lack awareness, by the way. But a lot of people choose to avoid conflict, not because the solution is something that's scary, but they're afraid of whatever, upsetting somebody, being unlikable. But it's very fear-based. And if people could just say, hey, Rick, don't do that. Or, hey, Sue Ann, we need to move on. Or whatever the thing may be. Oh, thank you for telling me.
Need to
Just
move
tell
on.
me. And people don't tell you things.
Yeah.
Actually, one. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Sophie.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
Sue
You're so sweet. Well, it was one of the things is also, being aware of stuff like processing speech, right? Like as a kid, I could never follow the teachers. And I'm sorry, I'm going to cuss for this because it was so frustrating. The speed at which they spoke and the language used just did not like sync right in my brain. And so I learned by watching what are the other kids doing right now. That's what I have to do. So the catch up. So even how you asked that question, like literally probably, I don't want to speak for Albert, but I was sitting there trying to give, and I was thinking, having a thoughtful moment. So sometimes it's a little slower, just be a little patient, and we'll get back to you. And that's one of the ways, I was thinking so.
That's a great point. That's something that I have to practice with my son all the time is I ask him one question and then I just wait for that answer. You don't go in and overload him with repeated questions or prompting him more to do more. You just be patient and you wait. That's well put. Is anyone else? Sosie?
Albert, did you want to say something? I feel like
that I couldn't really answer that question because I was unemployed before this.
the best jokes.
That was no joke.
I know, but you have the zingers. I was gonna say that the culture on the set, that's kind of part of one of the things that you asked. I feel like the culture on every set is different, and it was just so lovely and generous, and everybody was so kind to each other, and there were no egos, which is essentially impossible on a movie or TV set. And I think that obviously that always comes from the top down. So that's Jason. But it's also having Elaine Hall there, which I don't know what her job title would be, but somebody
On-set advocate.
Advocate. Who wasn't, who was advocating for everybody and sort of checking in with everybody. And I would really like that to be present on all sets, to be honest, because it can be really difficult for anyone, whether you're on the spectrum, whether you're dyslexic, whatever, any person with any brain. It's hard, it gets overwhelming, and people get stressed out. So it was just really, really nice, joyful, and I loved it, and we had a lot of fun.
I'm not just on, should there be that, on just on sets, but in workplaces in general, there was one of the things that made me want to write this show was I heard this statistic that, there was an 80% unemployment rate of college graduates who are on the spectrum. So 80% unemployment rates of college graduates on the spectrum. And Albert, I'm sorry, did you want to chime in there?
That was just me as well.
You were in.
He was calling back his unemployment before the show.
But not anymore. But and that's just not right. And one of the things about it was like, we have this Elaine Hall, who's our advocate, who's fantastic. But one of the things that she's there for are not only the people who are neurodiverse on the set, but everybody. She's there for me. She's there for our department heads, our producers, all members of the crew to say, is there anything I need to understand here? Is there anything that would be helpful in this situation? And I want to also say that it's not just these three actors. We had throughout our crew, the writer's room, the set, the production office, post, we really wanted to make sure that we had neurodiverse people part of the show. And in terms of dispelling myths, about this 80% unemployment rate, all of these people, these actors and these crew members were not only like good at their jobs, they were like great at their jobs, and so it was, it was really an inspiration to be part of this show and sort of, just see it with your own eyes. And one of the things, Sosie, I almost called you Mandy. Sosie was talking about, the feeling on the set. And I think that a lot of that did come from people like Elaine, but a lot of it came from the three leads of the show. I feel like they really came to the set from day one with just such openness and such trust. And it was so beautiful, and it permeated the atmosphere of the set. And it made it, one of the most beautiful sets that I've ever, been part of.
I think it shows in the work. Let's watch our next clip.
Man.
Yeah.
Please don't talk to me like that.
Like what?
Like you don't know what you would do without me.
What's going on, man?
What's going on is that I changed my entire life for this job, and that was because I thought I could make a real difference. But now my whole relationship is falling apart, and I'm like questioning basic things about who I am, like whether or not I want to be a doctor. A couple months ago, my future was so clear, and now it's not clear, and that's what's going on.
I don't know what to say. All I know is you have a gift. You're making a real difference. All that other stuff, you'll figure it out. Future stuff.
But see, what if I don't figure it out? Like, what if I get stuck in there? And what if I lose sight of who I am?
I won't let that happen.
Ooh, you stopped it right before.
Yeah, I was wondering where to play up to.
Right before what? What happens?
They'll have to watch the show and find out.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you.
Powerful scene. Powerful scene. Now, I just really enjoy all the scenes with the caregivers just because it's something I relate to, just showing the amount of sacrifice that you have, the amount of balance between the care and the love that you have for your caregivees and the wanting to have your own life, wanting to do your own thing. So for you, Sosie, how do you see Mandy's character evolve throughout the season as she becomes more attached to Jack, Violet, and Harrison and the struggles and what to do next in her own life?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I definitely relate to it on a personal level for various reasons. But I think for Mandy, she, like so many people do right when they get out of college, to sort of follow this track that will get them to the job, that will get them to the next job, whatever. I don't really know because I never did anything like that. But really, like, where her heart is with these three people. And I think that her relationship, thanks to Jason and the other actors, incredible, inspiring work, evolves over the whole show. And with Sue-Ann, I think that there's this gendered piece that was gotten so well, that she kind of gets fucked over by a guy, and they are no longer on a different sort of level in any way. They're just talking about the realities of life and being a woman in the world, who's basically they're the same age. And it was incredibly moving to do that scene because it felt like they connected on a friendship level. And then the same thing with Harrison, because Mandy does something that, no spoilers, really hurts him. And then they get past that together, like a relationship with a friend, So this sort of employee relationship changes. And then with Jack, he just listens to maybe one thing that she says and does it. And that's their big growth. But yeah, I think that she is struggling because her heart is there. But I understand why she says in that scene that she doesn't want to lose herself, because there's a lot of outside pressure on young women and young people in general to grow, and level up. And sometimes it's more about what feeds your heart and your soul, and that's a thing.
It seems through at least first couple episodes that I watched that Mandy is at an odds between what she thinks that her calling should be and just going out and living this life. And when she's already found her calling, she's found her home, she's found the people that she's going to make that difference with. And I think watching her try to come to terms with that, as well as still have a full life, which is something that you see whether you have someone on the spectrum, you have a parent with Alzheimer's or whatever, you see these journey between trying to still live your life and caring for that person you love so much. And it just was, for me, beautiful to watch. So I appreciate your work there.
Thank you. And I think almost in a way, it's not possible to have both. You sort of have to accept that you will sacrifice various things for the other because it's meaningful to you, and I think that's hard for people to accept sometimes. And
absolutely, it brought me to another scene that I have my own question about. Well, not really a question, just a comment, but I really enjoyed the scene with you, Chris, where Van is just basically avoiding talking with his girlfriend about talking to his sister so much on the calls and doing these things. And it just reminded me of before I was married and I was dating, and how I would kind of put that portion of my life to a side, not because I was ashamed of my son, but because of look, do you really want to get so involved in this? Either you're going to come in and be the step parent of a kid on the spectrum, or we're just dating and you don't need to know about this. And that was just something I really enjoy seeing. And it's not as he can be considered aloof or he wasn't committed, but it's the fact that he was so committed to his sister. Is that something you would agree with, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. Especially when we meet Van at the beginning of the series, we really get a sense of how much, firstly, that he cares about Violet, but also how much time he spends on her. He's just there trying to juggle this whole thing of I have an entire human being to look after, and that requires my attention, and also I'm trying to figure out what life means. He's not a super experienced guy at doing life. He's just like a 20-something-year-old kid himself. And suddenly he's been entrusted with the care of his sister, who's on the spectrum from the age of 19. His parents are out of the picture. And so it's a huge responsibility, right? And then he's trying to have a girlfriend, like you said. He's trying to go to work and do all these things. And how do you split that time up, and how do you do them all effectively at the same time? And perhaps, like Sosie was saying, it might be impossible. How do you juggle these things? It's such a big part of your life. And so he's just trying to figure it out. And it's a big thing to let someone else into your life too, for that special part of your life, because he's trying to care for Violet. He's still trying to figure out how. And I think that scene we watched before too with Mandy and Van. It's interesting to watch that, because they almost come from completely opposite sides, right? Mandy is able to show her vulnerability. She's able to voice her insecurities, and she's not sure about if she's doing the right thing, if she's going about it the right way. Whereas Van, I think he's come from the complete opposite side, where he's had to grow up. He's got no one to lean on. And so he's developed this hard shell of I have the answers, even if I don't. And even if I'm not saying the right thing, I have to know what's going on. I have to be confident with it. And so it's him processing this. And Van's, you see it throughout the series. I think he's very, he respects what Mandy can do, but I think he's also a little bit envious of it, because he tries so hard and he's giving so much, and Violet's just his number one top priority. And at the end of the day, he'll choose her over anything else. She is all he has at the end of the day, but he's just unable to do it, and he's trying his best. And so, coming back to what you were saying, it's a difficult thing to let someone in to all that. How do you say, hey, we're trying to figure out where we're at with this relationship, and we're trying to make something work, but also, boom, here's another bomb. Do you want to be a part of this? It's a tough thing. And I think the show does really well highlighting just how difficult, just perhaps, the struggles that a parent has to go through, or a caretaker. And that's one of the things I love about it.
It's one of the things I truly loved about it, because that's something I lived through, of being like, okay, you're into me, but how do I explain that we can't really go out too late because I have to be home in case my 14-year-old son needs me to wipe his butt? So it's something that's difficult to explain to people. And I just really enjoy that scene. I think it's the difference between someone like Mandy's character, who has an education in the spectrum, who is more chosen to get into this world, as opposed to someone who's a parent or a sibling of someone on the spectrum who gets thrust into it, and showcasing that you don't have to necessarily be so knowledgeable about everything autism related, where you're an advocate for your sister. You just care about your sister. And I think that's a beautiful thing to show as well.
And I think the writing of that, like that nuanced difference between those two, the responsibility is all on Van. Mandy can walk away at any time, and it was her choice. Was written so beautifully, and it wasn't, you weren't beat over the head with it, but you really understood it, and it was very moving to even play it.
No, truly. And it shows the beauty of both sides, the beauty in someone who is just, this is my life. I was born into this and I have to do it. And that true beauty of someone who chooses to be a part of that when they could walk away. Those are both amazing things.
I just want to add one more thing to this. This great conversation about this. I'm so happy we're having this conversation, because this is like something that was a big part of, I really wanted this to come through in the show.
Oh yeah, they got the perfect host for this.
One of the things I want to add to this is that, I was really excited to write this character of Mandy when we were doing the show, because over the years with my son, from when the time my son was very little, there were so many people who helped him along the way. And I really developed such an deep admiration for the people who choose to help people who need help. And it's not like it's not me. Like, that's not what I couldn't do that. I wouldn't have the patience or the compassion or I couldn't do what they do. And it's in a way like Mandy is like this, amalgamation of so many people who have come through, my life. And I have really such admiration for the people who take that path. I think that was like one of the things I really wanted to, show in doing the show was just, you see her like juggling plates, just constantly juggling plates and trying to do her best, and not always doing their best, because, people make mistakes, and that's what happens, but you just see how much she cares and how great she is with all three of them.
Yeah, truly. I think what I love is that you never hide from how overwhelming it can be at times, how frustrating it can get to be at times. In particular, the one scene where Van just goes like, "You're not normal," and then he has to apologize for it. I think that any parent of someone on the spectrum or anything, they have also had those frustrating moments where you end up saying something to your kid or to whoever, and then you just have to walk it back immediately because it's not something that you truly meant or you truly understand, but you're just frustrated in the time. I know a lot of places and shows probably wouldn't want to showcase that, and I appreciate you for doing so. Let's watch our next clip.
Well, Travertine gets the job done, but Genuine Slate is still #1. Jack, what are you doing here? Marcus, you're missing a big meeting at work and you're on probation.
You gave me inexact and incomplete information about your cancer.
Cancer? Oh, it's nothing.
It's not nothing. It's small cell carcinoma. It's extremely serious.
Oh my God, how bad is it?
He has somewhere between a 30 and 50% chance of survival.
Jesus. It's 50%.
Not necessarily. When they did your workup, did they find any mutations in your 3rd or 6th chromosome?
I don't know, Jack.
Or loss of function on your RB1 gene?
I don't know.
How do you not know this?
Look, I have an appointment with my oncologist tomorrow. Why don't you come along?
Okay, good. I have a ton of questions for this guy.
Well, how about we start at 3, okay? If you come along, that's the rule. 3 questions. He's a big-time doctor. His time is valuable. We are just there to listen. All right.
Okay.
Beautiful scene. Ricky, I have a two-part question for you.
Start with the first.
I will. Number one, is your dad happy? Is your real life dad happy that he's also represented by such a handsome man in the acting world? Is it just a thing in your contract that in real life or in acting, you got to have a handsome father?
I said that I will not have a father that doesn't have a hairline at least as good as my dad's. Yeah, they were very happy with it, and also oddly have so many things in common. Not just the way they speak. I mean,
that looks like your dad's rug store.
My dad is a flooring store. Shout out to Marshall Rug Gallery, by the way, Sundance.
I knew you would make the plug.
And like he and my dad, they don't drink any hot liquids. I mean, there's so many weird things, and it was at first it was a superficial like way to connect to him, like, oh, my dad, blah blah blah. But then and he's just a very paternal man. So it was Ricky boy, my baby boy, he says, and it's just Joe, we're talking about you, bud. He's in my room.
Second part of my question. And so in that scene, we see how Jack processes bad news when he learns of his father's cancer diagnosis. So what was that scene like for you?
There was another scene that happened before that when he first brought it to my attention. And this was a scene when we're discovering how bad it is and what we need to do. And I'd like to answer that for both of those moments. There was a scene when we were doing it that when we were rehearsing it, it was so connected and just, I mean, it's a scene that like I'm glad it was one of my audition scenes because it's very easy the way it's written. It's just, it's devastating. And there's two people that are just, at least one person, my character Jack, is in a completely different world and he's forced to like care about something.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were doing this, I remember I asked Joe, and I felt so uncomfortable because he's been doing this forever, and I've done fart jokes a couple of times. I asked if especially because I was very limited in my character of eye contact, I asked if he could make eye contact with me a bit, because I do find whenever I make eye contact with somebody and there's something sincere, I have avoided it. It's why I do a lot of jokes. The oxytocin fills or something, and I just start getting watery eyed. And we maintained eye contact for just a second, and it made me cry. And from that moment, it's almost like if the first time you make love to somebody, there's a connection, there was something that happened when we filmed that scene that I just I cry sometimes when I talk to Joe, and sometimes I would laugh. I can't stop laughing. Just my emotions were very heightened with What's Sosie?
Sorry, I was just saying you're really lucky as an actor that you have that skill, because you don't have to stick the peppermint stick in your eyeballs.
You don't either, Sosie.
I do. Yes, I do.
Never any. I've never seen you.
It's okay. Great stuff, by the way. What is it? Let's see. Sosie. And so the character Jack, who is so self-involved because his problems weigh so much to him, more than they need to weigh, he doesn't really allow to take on other people's problems much. And when he first finds out about the diagnosis, it's a combination of his dad being sick, but also him needing to have somebody help support him and pay his rent. And there's almost this selfish aspect that forces him to open the blinders to something that, not that he didn't care about, but he was unwilling to see. And I relate to that very much, not necessarily on that level, but just when things are opened, you're just, like I was saying, you're allowed to ask questions and see things differently. And it was just, it's just, it was emotional. I'm glad I was able to feel that, because hopefully I was able to perform it. But man, it was an emotional thing to do that, both in the story and opposite Joe, this person that like I make eye contact with now in real life and just feel so much for.
Well, Ricky, we've known each other for years, and I never, if I give you a compliment, it's usually something I fully believe. You were wonderful in those scenes. It was very just believable and simple and heart tugging, and it's the best acting I've ever seen you do in your life. You did a great job.
Ron.
For you, Jason, I know for me the scene where Jack's dad tells him that he has cancer, I almost had to stop watching the show at that point because it brought up some emotions in me that I've been, quite frankly, trying to avoid my whole life since my son's diagnosis when he was 2. It's probably been me just motivating, like, I need to take care of him. I need to get money. I need to have a career. I need to have these things. Right. And the scene where he's like, look, I'm going to die most likely. And I need, before I go, I need to know that you can take care of yourself. It's something, quite frankly, I've been avoiding. And so it really tugged at me emotionally. So I wanted to ask you, why was it so important for you to represent this father-son dynamic in the series?
Well, thank you. And for a lot of the reasons that you're sort of bringing up is why I wanted to write about this. I mean, I think as a parent, your basic feeling as a parent is, I want my kids to be okay. That's the basic hope. That's like what like if you're going to boil it down to one thing, you want them to be okay. And, that is where that storyline sort of came from. The idea that Lou, finds out he has this scary diagnosis, and it hangs a lantern on the fact that he's not going to be around forever. And, the thing about the story with Jack and his dad is Jack in certain ways seems like he's got it down. He's brilliant. He's got this really big job. He's in certain ways, he seems like so able to handle the world. But in other ways, he's not yet. He's got, and we talk about a little bit like about some history of problems that he's had with finances and with figuring his stuff out. And so, for me, it's this story about how again it goes to that idea of autonomy. It goes to that idea of but in this case, Lou needing his son to get to a place where he feels like he's going to be okay and thrive. And, and doing it through this, storyline where, Lou is also dealing with his own health. And I think it also shows that he's like, in a way, putting his son almost ahead of his own self-care. It's becoming the most important thing to him. And I also liked in that scene, when Lou said, okay, you can come, but you can only ask a few questions, because it was like, he knows with Jack that Jack is going to not be able to on his own, filter himself. And he, so he knows that like in that moment, if he's coming to the doctor, it's like trying to find that balance for Lou of how much do I, let Jack in really to what's going on, and how much do I protect Jack from that and make the main focus of life right now. How does Jack get to where Jack needs to be in case things don't work out for me? So to me, like the whole storyline was like, it's what, all parents think all the time, but it put, it made it into a sort of an emergency situation and heightened the stakes. And that was the idea of that story.
I'd like to share a quick anecdote about that, asking the doctor 3 questions. I had a doctor, general practitioner for years that, I'd ask a lot of questions because what's going on with my shoulder and, help me out with this. And there was one time that I noticed him just a little grumpy. And I said, it seems that maybe sometimes when I come in here, you don't like that. And he goes, Rick, I'll be honest, when I see your name on the door, I take a deep breath. And I said, okay, this was before my diagnosis, but when I was like understanding some stuff and asking some questions, I said, what is it? And he goes, you just ask too many questions. And though I understand, don't ask too many questions. He's my doctor, relax, But I was thinking about that in that scene where it's just only 3 questions. I'm like, oh, this is a thing. This is a thing.
You're like, oh. Well, I really love that scene as well, because I think it shows sometimes that reverse of the father-son dynamic, where we do see Jack's characters step up, ask questions, to have more information than even the doctor has. And when the receptionist in there says that he needs the advocate, and he decides to be an advocate for his father, just as his father has been an advocate for him. Beautiful scene. I had no question. Just wanted to say how much I like it. Let's get to our next clip.
I swear if my mom catches me doing this, she'll ground me for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Your mom doesn't like me very much.
So did you check out that workout? What's it called again?
Between a walk and a hard place.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so ridiculous. Mandy wants me to do 3 45-minute sessions per week. That's torture.
What's your login? I'm looking it up.
My username's Harrison32. And my password's 010496. My birthday.
Oh, this is actually kind of cool. They offer kickboxing and jujitsu. Let's look at the instructors. Anyone look interesting to you?
Maybe Colette. She looks nice.
Wow, she's got huge boobs.
Yeah.
I wonder how she exercises with those.
A lot of bouncing.
Beautiful clip. Albert, before I get to your question, I just want to say Harrison is probably my favorite character. I love your portrayal of him. It's the one that I relate to the most with my son, with his love of Price is Right, hatred of dogs and exercise. It's something that I was like, this is my son. So I really, really enjoyed it. And in that scene, we see that friendships and bonds are basic human desires, and that we also see Harrison develop a friendship with AJ, the child, throughout the show. So Albert, how do you think that friendship helped Harrison with some of his anxieties?
It was just good for him to have a friend. I felt like there was a yin yang sort of thing with them. AJ was very extroverted, Harrison was really introverted. AJ was pretty mature for his age. Harrison's pretty immature for his age. It was just good for him to have someone to talk to, goof off with, nerd out with. And AJ ended up kind of like, AJ pushed him to try new things, ultimately, which is something that Mandy also keeps trying to do. And throughout the season, that's a thing with Harrison, where he's going out of his comfort zone, and things don't always work out, but I think he's only in a better place by the end of this season than he was at the beginning, and he'll probably just keep trying new experiences.
I think you really said such a strong fact that it's just nice to have a friend, have someone that you can relate to. And in a world where we often don't feel that we find that, when you do, even though there's such a difference in their ages, it is just that they are truly friends. Is that something, Jason, can you tell me about how you see their friendship?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing. I think that it's the power of friendship is what that story is about. And it's also about the assumptions of what a friend is. You can't have a friend if you're 25. You can't have a friend who's a 12-year-old kid. And that's like society. Society is telling us that. Harrison and AJ go out into the world, and people are looking at them like something's wrong. What is this man doing? And so society, has all these preconceptions and these misnomers about what friendship is. But friendship can look like a lot of things. And it doesn't have to, not what we're always used to seeing. And I think that what was so beautiful to me I loved that friendship so much. And what was so beautiful about it to me too, and I think is so real, is that Harrison, when you first see him, he can't like walk out the door of this apartment. And then when he's with the AJ, the mere fact of having a friend, he's getting on a bus, he's going across town, he's like going to exercise class, maybe it didn't work out that well, but he did these things that he never thought he was capable of doing or able to do. And there's nothing like the power of a friendship to get people to go out of their comfort zone. And to me, that's what that story was about. And to me, it was also about like, friendship doesn't have to always look like what we're expecting it to look like.
I was going to say that I think from a caretaker's perspective or a life coach, it's like Mandy's been trying to get Harrison to do these things for so long. She's been trying to get everyone to do various things for so long. But what ends up being the thing that pushes them is peers and different adult relationships. You know what I mean? So she's sort of a support. And even though she's worried for Harrison, she's so proud of him for like having that push him out of his comfort zone. Because sometimes I think as a caregiver or parent or sibling, you can't decide what someone with autonomy is going to do. You can try, but you can't. Everyone has to come to their own decisions and moments.
I like how Jason said, and I thought about this during this too, how the goal of him leaving the house, whatever that may have been, maybe it didn't go the way as planned, but he did the thing. And it's a mantra. Shout out to the great Will Smith. He says, fail forward. And that so resonates so much because the measure of success is the thing. It's so limiting, but like if you could push yourself forward and you step outside of your comfort zone and fail, what you've done is gained another unit of experience doing this uncomfortable thing. And the goal is to be comfortable or at least to accept the uncomfort. And that scene was really, really nice at showing that because it did feel like a win while also like there was some drama of things not going right, but it was an absolute win.
Yeah, I love that it truly does show the power of friendship. And it reminds me of things with my own son, who for years would only eat plain hamburgers from McDonald's or Burger King. That's the only thing he wanted. And that's what we had to get him every day, or just a cheese pizza with extra sauce. And then he goes to middle school and high school and starts interacting with other kids. And he comes back and he's like, I want to try this. I want to try that. And it's just not from me pushing him, but from him hearing, oh, my friends are doing this. My other people are doing this. I'm open to this now. And it truly shows just how sometimes even as a caregiver, you can't have all those answers. And just one thing I want to pop on that you said, Jason, is that I truly enjoy with this series in general is that it doesn't usually play the actions or the events that happens to your main characters on the spectrum as they're never the punchline in this. It is how society might view you. Just the scene at Arby's where they assume that Violet was trying to hit on the lady's husband. It's a misunderstanding in society that are the punchlines and the jokes in the show, as opposed to the characters themselves. And again, just as a person who's been trying to see that representation more in Hollywood, I truly appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's so true.
All right, I think that was our last clip. So let's go to our last question, which is the title of this panel was Actually Authentic. Hashtag Actually Authentic indeed. What does authentic mean to you in the context of this important series? I think we should just start with Jason.
Well, I mean, to me, that authenticity was really like it was everything that we tried to do in telling the story. And it started with casting these three leads and continued with every choice that we made, what their, apartment, looked like, what would be on the walls, they would have. And we really did our best to try to tell this story in a way that was as honest as possible and, shift the lens so this is not a story about I have somebody who has a friend with autism, or somebody has a child with autism. It's the other way around. It's through the eyes, as we see it, through the eyes of these three characters going through the world and just seeing, just trying to represent what their lives are like and make it feel as authentic and real as possible.
I think for me, it means breaking the stereotype and specificity. I think that's what it means for me, because I even though I'm identify as neurotypical, but I'm fighting this fight being an Asian male, trying to find my place in Hollywood, what I do, and growing up in Australia, not seeing myself represented. I was very affected by what the stereotype meant for me. And so I think what this show does a wonderful job of, so I'm Asian and I play an Asian character, and all the autistic characters are played by autistic actors. And there's a truthfulness to that you can't replicate. And I think it's just going beyond that stereotype of seeing like Rain Man's on screen and stuff. We're going really deep and we're building very three-dimensional real characters. And I think that's something that's beautiful that we've done.
With the actually authentic, the characters in the story are these people that aren't just really as much choosing, like, this is who I want to be. There's almost not a choice. This is who I am, which is a goal for enlightenment, to be who you are. Allow yourself to grow and to gain new awareness and be better, while also accepting and appreciating where you come from and who you were as part of who you are. But I've been fortunate in my life as an adult, especially in the comedy community, to meet people that they saw me, I saw them, and we decided we'll be friends or we won't, and you move on. I didn't have that as much as a kid. But what I liked about this show is these characters, they are them. They end up, some relationships don't work out. Some have that equilibrium where they offer enough to each other and they do work out. And they didn't have to, they had to learn, as we all do, but they didn't have to change who they were or pretend, like Sue Ann has talked about as a child, she would have to act her whole life. You're seeing this show, you're seeing people be who they are, and finding that, that is enough of an emulsifying agent, and finding these people that will connect with you and you'll connect with them. And it's a corny thing, but being actually authentic is the only way to find out that you truly are enough.
So I've been saying, like, I never seen anybody who was like myself represented on TV, and the first time that I saw Max from Parenthood, it just broke me, because I was like, oh my God, there's people out there who are like me, right? Because I was like, something's wrong with me. Like, that was the message over and over and over. Like, someone like me would be like, that kid should be normal, like they're like, what's wrong with you, and you go around life, and teachers, people are just mean. They're like so mean to anything that is outside what they think should be the norm, right? And so I hope it just opens up a world of like, oh, there's very different people on the autism spectrum. Some of them speak, some of them don't. Some of them are going to be your classmates. Can you be nicer to them? Please, like, there's struggles. So thank you for making this show, Jason. All these characters.
Well said.
Thank you, Sam.
I'm super grateful that I got to work with such amazing actors who were inspiring and so always prepared and always always thinking about their characters and wanting to talk about it. That's rare. So selfishly, it makes it easier to develop specific relationships with each character on screen, when everybody is committed to what you're doing. And so I'm grateful for the casting because of that. Maybe that's selfish. I just got to work with an awesome actor, which makes me look better.
I'm just surprised to hear that Rick comes in prepared.
Well,
not Rick. Just kidding.
Ron, sometimes there's nothing and it could turn into a little bit of flowers.
Truly, Rick.
I have to acknowledge, Ron, by the way, this is, I believe, your first time doing a panel like this.
Yes.
You're crushing it. And I loved the way you just asked that. But great job with this today, Ron.
Thank you. You really messed up the cleanness right there, but thank you.
Well, sometimes.
And that's perfect. That is all the time we have for today. So thank you to all our panelists for this great conversation. And personally, this is some things I never really get to talk about that are a part of my personal life. And to see those things represented on a TV show and to get a chance to talk with you all has been an important and enjoyable for me today. As a reminder, all 8 episodes of As We See It are available to stream on Prime Video. So watch it now. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, guys. Hi, I'm Jason Katims. I'm the creator of As We See It. I'm very proud of the show and the stories we're telling, but we're not stopping there. It's crucial that the industry supports professional disabled talent, and that's why Amazon Studios is supporting the Inevitable Foundation's work in honor of As We See It to fund and mentor mid-career disabled screenwriters. The Inevitable Foundation's Mid-Career Screenwriting Fellowship provides $25,000 stipend, bespoke mentorship, and access to in-depth workshops to develop and sell their own content. Applications are now open at inevitable.foundation.
Hello, I am Nick Novicki. I am a white little person wearing a black shirt with little skulls. I got a little facial hair because this is the Sundance Film Festival. I am, for those of you that don't know, a actor, comedian, and I'm the founder and director of the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge, and I'm a proud Easterseals board member. We thank you guys so much for joining us today. Easterseals is so honored to help celebrate the launch of As We See It. This is a groundbreaking show depicting 3 20-something roommates on the autism spectrum. Besides producing the show with an authentic cast and themes, Easterseals was proud to consult on this show every step of the way. And I mean, this show really is an unbelievable example of how disability representation